Next news. Breaking news from the White House.
I'm Gary Franchi reporting from the White House, and what I'm about to show you will infuriate you. While American forces are obliterating over 7,000 Iranian targets while our Navy is sending their ships to the bottom of the ocean, France just announced that they're sitting this one out. That's right, the country famous for surrendering is surrendering again. And it gets worse, my friends. It gets much, much worse. And I'm going to tell you why this matters to you and your family. I'm talking about the Strait of Hormuz. That is where 20% of the world's oil flows through. Iran blocked it, and now, while President Trump is doing the heavy lifting, while American servicemen and women are putting their lives on the line, our so-called allies in Europe are abandoning us. They're saying this isn't their war, but guess what? They need that oil more than we do. And thanks to President Trump, America is energy independent. We're a net exporter now. But Europe, see, they're dependent on that strait, and they're refusing to help open it. This is the moment we find out who our real friends are, and the answer, well, just might shock you. And speaking of national security, there is a critical vulnerability that the mainstream media refuses to cover. As Iran destabilizes the Middle East, the federal government, what did they do? Well, they just made a move that could reshape America's security posture. And here's the truth. Our nuclear subs, our warheads, our next-gen power grid, all of it depends on uranium. And we import almost every single pound of it. This is not about energy independence. This is about survival, because a nation that can't power its own military does not remain a superpower for long. And that's why smart investors are watching atomic minerals trading as ATMMF in the United States and ATOM in Canada. They're developing domestic uranium resources right here on American soil. When our enemies control our energy supply chain, we are vulnerable. Companies securing American uranium independence, they're not just investments, they are patriots. Take a look at the full briefing that's been prepared for you. It's linked below. Now back to the European betrayal that's unfolding in real time. Now you need to see this for yourself, because what's happening right now, it's not just about military strikes, it's about who stands with America and who doesn't. The footage I'm about to show you reveals a growing fracture between the United States and our European allies. So let's just get right into it. I mean, wait till you see this. French President Macron, and folks, it's exactly what you'd expect from France. They're waving the white flag again. Listen to this.
We are not a party to the conflict, and therefore France will never take part in operations to reopen or liberate the Strait of Hormuz in the current context.
There it is. We are not party to the conflict. France will never take part in operations to liberate the Strait of Hormuz. It's classic French surrender. While American forces are doing the hard work, France is hiding. Remember this moment. Remember who stood with us and who didn't. Now here's where it gets interesting, because while Europe retreats, American strategists are laying out exactly how to end this and end it fast. Senator Lindsey Graham just went on camera with a message for President Trump, and what he's proposing, it's bold, it's aggressive, and it could end this entire conflict with just one decisive move. Watch.
Any longer than he has to, and I don't think it's going to be much longer.
Yeah. No, we're not going to invade Iran. There's no reason to. We're going to destroy their ability to hurt us, have a nuclear weapon, build missiles to hit America, and terrorize the region. Carg Island, 90% of their income comes from oil and gas revenue. 100% of that revenue generating capability is on a single island. Mr. President, take Carg Island. This war is over.
Carg Island. Write that name down. Senator Graham says 90% of Iran's income comes from oil and gas. 100% of that capability sits on one island. He's telling President Trump directly, take Carg Island and this war is over. No invasion needed, just strategic precision. In the White House, well, they are not backing down. The press secretary Leavitt just delivered numbers that will make your jaw drop. Here we have Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt announcing the latest figures for Operation Epic Fury. And when you hear what our military has accomplished in just 18 days, you'll understand why Iran is in serious trouble. Watch this.
We're now on day 18 of this operation, and some updated numbers for you from CENTCOM this morning. We've now actually struck more than 7,800 targets. More than 120 Iranian naval ships are at the bottom of the ocean, have been sunk by our great military. So the objectives of Operation Epic Fury have been clear from day one, and the sheer lethality and power of the U.S. Armed Forces is on display every single day as they continue to meet these objectives and obliterate the road rogue Iranian regime and their ability to threaten the United States of America, our allies, and the Middle East.
Let those numbers sink in. 7,800 targets struck, over 120 Iranian naval ships at the bottom of the ocean, and that terrorist, quote, is no longer here on this earth. And that's a good thing for the United States. That's American strength. That's what happens when you threaten this nation. But the White House isn't done. They had a pointed message for our fair weather friends in Europe, and it's exactly what needed to be said. Leavitt addressing the elephant in the room. Our allies who are refusing to help. Secretary Hegseth and Rubio, they're working the phones. They're pressuring Europe to step up. But what Leavitt says next, it's the most important message of this entire conflict. And I want you to listen very carefully. Watch.
Has there been any movement overnight on behalf of our allies that has softened their position about going through the Strait of Hormuz?
Not overnight, but the president and his team, especially Secretary Hegseth and Secretary Rubio, continue to be in touch with their counterparts in Europe and, of course, our allies in the Arab engulfed region to step up and do more to help the United States in securing the Strait of Hormuz. This is to their benefit, more so than it is to the benefit of the United States. Thanks to President Trump, we are a net exporter of energy. We don't need the Strait of Hormuz for our energy here at home. For the American people, of course, we want the strait to be open for the global oil market and to stabilize prices and bring them down again. And we have options. The military has options to continue doing that. But the president is right to call on our allies to step up to do more. You know, one of President Trump's guiding principles is fairness. And he has long called out NATO for being what he believes an unfair alliance for the American people, the American taxpayer, and our U.S. armed forces. You look at some of the trade deals with our NATO allies. The president has worked to renegotiate and reset those to make them more fair for the American people and American workers. You look at the fact that the United States has thousands of troops on our allies in NATO's soil. We're paying these countries billions of dollars, and our troops on their soil serves as a deterrent for them. And the president wants the American taxpayer and our American military to be treated fairly. He feels sometimes with NATO they are not, and he's right to call that out, and he's right to call on them to step up and do more, especially when reopening the strait benefits them even more than it does the United States of America.
Did you hear that? She said it perfectly. Thanks to President Trump, America is a net exporter of energy. We don't need the Strait of Hormuz. They do. Europe, our NATO allies, they benefit more than we do, and President Trump's guiding principle is fairness. We have troops on their soil, we pay billions, we protect them, and when we need help, they disappear. President Trump is right to call them out. And that brings us to the bigger picture, because what's unfolding right now will define global alliances for decades. Now, here's what you just witnessed. America is winning the military battle. 7,800 targets destroyed. Iran's Navy decimated. Their terrorist leaders eliminated. Senator Graham is showing exactly how to end this by taking Kharg Island. But diplomatically, we're standing alone. France surrendered. Europe is hiding. And if Europe says that Iran isn't their war, President Trump might say Ukraine isn't ours. The old world order is crumbling, and a new one with America putting itself first is being born right before our eyes. This is the moment of truth for the Western Alliance. President Trump is showing the world what American strength looks like. 18 days, 7,800 targets, total naval dominance, and he's doing it while calling out the freeloaders who depended on American protection for decades. France can surrender, Europe can criticize, but when the dust settles, they'll remember who kept the world's oil flowing. They'll remember who had the courage to act, and they'll remember that it was Donald Trump who said enough. I'm Gary Franchi reporting from the White House, and if the story opened your eyes, share it, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment telling me, should Europe step up or step aside? Let's keep the conversation going. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and as always, stay free.
The system controls information. Information control is power. I want you to see this. The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now.